me well. My name is Mark Antoon. I am the president of the gaming platform called Nutaku. In my speech today, I will talk to you about the rise of the adult gaming and the $10 million investment opportunity. So it's about 20 minutes worth of talk, and then we'll get into QA. And mostly about the $10 million investment. Hopefully you guys are interested in that one. So the traditional app stores today are overcrowded and oversaturated. There's absolutely no doubt about it. There's currently over 1 million active games on the App Store and another 1 million active games on Google Play. The stats tell you that less than 1% of apps and approximately less than 3% of games are financially successful today. Unfortunately, if you are not one of those big studios like EA, Gameloft, Supercell, or King, it's extremely hard to be financially successful in this state of the gaming industry. What might happen most of the time is you have an amazing game, but you need the perfect storm, is what we call. You need to have a very addictive game mechanic, very original IP. You need to have the perfect monetization. And on top of that, you need to be featured by the stores. Something that rarely happens when you are a small to medium-sized studio. So what you might end up happening is you will have the perfect game that no one knows about, unfortunately. And Gartner, one of the leading research and consulting firms, are predicting that things will get even worse in 2018. How did we know that? We actually learned the very hard way, unfortunately. In 2012, I started a studio, and we were game developers exactly like yourself. Probably most of you are game developers. And we launched our very first title called Pirate Legends, is what you see on your screen here. It was a tower defense game, very similar to Kingdom Rush. The only difference is our title was free to play, very original IP. At the time, we went out and we hired the most expensive, most experienced people in the industry. And we were talking to Apple. We were very excited. We were very confident that we were going to get the editor's choice and make millions of dollars on the app stores. It just so happened, unfortunately, that a game called Plants vs. Zombie 2 happened to launch the same week as us. So guess what? They got the editor's choice. We got what we call the hero banner, which is still a significant amount of featuring. And even though we invested $1 million and close to a year developing this game, we were so enthusiastic about it, we made $400,000 back. So we lost money, and not just money, we lost time and opportunity. You'll see here, basically, it's a tower defense game. The idea is you want to protect your mothership. There's waves of enemies coming in. You have to strategically place your towers. It's a tower defense, your typical tower defense. Again, amazing art. Unfortunately, we failed with that one. So we said, you know what? We're not going to give up. We're going to try again. We're sure for the second time we're going to make money. So we launched another game called Don't Be Squared instead of Don't Be Scared. That one was a 2D runner. Also with a very experienced team. You'll see here the cloud. So the idea is you basically draw with your finger the path where the runner goes. Excellent art as well. Original, unique IP. Here we got even less featuring than the very first title. So even though we spent over $500,000, close to a year developing it, we made $50,000 back. So it was even a greater loss than the first one. Here we go. We failed again. And we said there must be a way of making money in gaming. And what we did was we started our own platform. Rather than relying on the traditional overcrowded stores, we started Nutaku in 2015. 2.5 years later and many $1 million later, we are number one. We are the largest free-to-play browser and downloadable gaming store in the world today. And I'll tell you about the 18 plus thing a little bit later on. We are the best alternative today to the oversaturated App Store and Steam. We have a very targeted and captive audience of 51 million players a month, and we are increasing at a very fast pace. Now, what do we have on our platform? We have free-to-play games. Those are the most popular and the games that generate the majority of the revenues. I would say 85% of our revenues come from free-to-play game. Obviously, we have downloadable games as well, just like Steam, but with the adult flavor, which I'll tell you about in a second. So those are available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Similar, exactly the same as in Steam. It's a one-time payment. You have full access to the game's content. You obviously make less money here because you can only monetize the player once. We also support mobile browser game, so mostly HTML5, and we also have Android apps. On the iPhone, unfortunately, Apple is very protective and they don't allow anything has to do with sexiness or nudity, so that we can't go there. But if you do have an iPhone, you can still play our games on a mobile browser. And we're also launching our Nutaku client in Q1, very similar or even better than that of Steam. So that's launching and we're very excited about it next year. That's in a nutshell the games that we support. Now, how do we compare? How do we stack up against the competition? I've just listed a few here. So we have Congregate, Miniclip, Newgrounds, and Armor Games. Congregate has been around for over 13 years now. We've been around for less than 3. And we are larger than them in terms of monthly visitors. Actually, the November numbers even look better than that. We're at 51 million, Congregate is 32, and the rest are even less than that. You're probably saying to yourself, for sure you have a lot of visitors, but you push all kinds of traffic to it. The quality of the players is not the same. Here are the other KPIs. So we beat the competition based in pages per visit. Players on our platform spend more than a minute more on Nutaku compared to Congregate, and we have the lowest bounce rate. So we have more visitors and better quality players. How do we achieve that? We spend a lot of money marketing the platform, more than $250,000 every month, just placing banners, advertisement all over the different gaming websites. This here is actually a screenshot of Newgrounds. If you go to their 18+ section, we have a permanent skin for the last year on it. It's a lot of money, but that's what pushes the traffic from Newgrounds to us, for example. And we spend quite a bit of money. We do PC mobile banners of over 2 billion impressions per month. We work with a lot of good affiliates that we pay them either on a revenue share model or per registration. So this is kind of how we bring in all these quality players to the platform. In addition to that, we are very good with SEO, fortunately, search engine optimization. We rank very well when it comes to the relevant keywords like browser games, XXX games, adult games, those kind of relevant keywords. We do a lot of email marketing, daily updates. And in terms of PR, we've hired one of the top agencies out of New York called 5W. You'll see here some of the sample coverages that we got. So Forbes covered us, Kotaku, My Anime List, Ask Men. And we also use a lot of YouTube influencers that we sometimes pay, sometimes they review us for free. There's another article on Forbes that came out just last week. And we're also actually using PewDiePie, if you've heard of him. We're paying that guy $70,000 to do a 6-minute clip of one of our games. Very expensive, but we'll see the return on investment there. Now, today we are not overcrowded. I don't promise this will be the case in 2 to 3 to 4 years. Maybe we'll become like the App Store. But today we only have 24 free-to-play games. So it's the perfect time to come in. Our top grossing game generates $500,000. The top 5 average around $200K per month. And what we do compared to the other platforms is, you'll see here, there's the Apple logo and Google logo. They don't guarantee you any players when you launch your game. We're the only platform in the world that actually guarantees you 100,000 new players to register your game in the first month of launch and 20,000 additional players every single month. So typically when you advertise your game, and you probably went through that experience, you launch a game, you don't get enough featuring, you need to advertise it. It costs anywhere between $4 to $8 depending on the genre of the game. And good luck making that money back unless you have a Candy Crush or a Clash Royale or a Clash of Clans. So we recognize that difficulty, we recognize this discoverability problem, and for that reason we guarantee 100,000 players on launch month. Currently today we're working with 38 different developers around the world. You'll see them here on the map. Pretty much every single studio we're working with is already, that launched a game on our platform, is already working on their second and third title. This is just proof that they are actually generating revenue and they're successful. Now, for the $10 million investment fund, I categorize the studios into 3 different categories. First one here is I don't know why we started with category 3, but that's category 1. You basically either, let's say you have a game that's currently in development or a brand new game idea. We can fund you if you obviously present the idea to us and we like it. These are some of the sample games that were in development or a new game idea that we funded. Throne of Legends, it's a card game very similar to Hearthstone. And we have Pocket Waifu, that's Tamagotchi, similar to Poo on the App Store. We'll show you how we've adultified some of these titles. And then there was one called Crystal Maidens that we have funded out of Montreal. That game launched actually just yesterday and is doing really well on our platform. The second category is what we qualify as you've launched the game and unfortunately you didn't get the exposure that game deserves. An example of that is Armor Blitz. And there's the trailer here. Super high quality game. You know, we've reached out to the studio before they launched on the app stores and we said, guys, why don't you adultify your game, put it up on Nutaku instead of the app stores? And their reaction was like, no, we don't need to go there. We're going to make millions of dollars on the app stores and we're going to be extremely successful. So we said, sure. They launched it and it's not because they're not a good studio or the game was not good. It's just the reality of the overcrowded markets and the fact that they are a medium to small size studio. So they got no featuring. And you'll see here on the right side, on Google, they made $6,000 after they've launched. So a week later, phone rang, Armor Blitz guys, do you mind funding us? We're going to adultify it, put it up on your platform, which they've done. And launch month, actually, they made close to 200,000. Now they're making 80K a month revenues. It's pretty significant for a small studio. It's what we call it mildly successful. So that is the second category. You'll see here how the art went from that to a little bit more sexy, let's call it. Third category is we love this category if you have any of these. You basically have a mildly successful game. So an example of that is Crush Crush. This one is actually a Canadian studio out of Vancouver. They are published on Steam and Congregate. They generate around $25,000 a month. It's what we call mildly successful. So they're able to pay for their rent, their employees, and they make a small profit. So this is an idle clicker, a dating simulator. We liked the genre. We contacted the studio. And at the beginning, they're like, Nutaku, we've never heard about you. Not sure we want to work with you. So what we've told them is, we will give you a risk-free investment. We will give you $50,000 to just add an additional step in the progression of this dating simulator to basically, it's a dating simulator, right? So the last step then was you're dating the girl. Well, on our version was you'll see her naked. And so on Steam and Congregate combined, they were making $25K a month. And for us, it was a big test to see how we stack up against these two big guys. And this studio is making 115 on Nutaku. Right now, they've tripled their size. And they're launching a gay version of this title on Nutaku soon. So again, we like this category. This is one of those that is basically mildly successful. It's an easy step to adultify it. We finance the whole adultification process. You just let us know how much money you need, how much time, and we will fund that. Just to recap here. So we fund all three categories, either a new game in development, or you have a game that didn't get the exposure it deserves, or lastly, the favorite category is you have a mildly successful game. 100% risk-free. Why? Because we do give you the advance that you need to adultify your game. If that game does not generate any revenue, we don't ask you for the money back. It's a risk-free. So, and we don't ask for any ownership in your studio or any shares in your game, none of that. We give you the money. If the game doesn't generate any money, it's good. We're willing to take that risk. Now, in terms of platform services, no other platform in the world offer the services that we do. We offer 24/7 customer care out of our offices here in Montreal, both online chat, phone, and email. Try to call Apple or Congregate at 2 a.m. See if you'll get a human to talk to you. It's almost impossible. We have a very advanced developer dashboard. Well, you'll be able to see your revenues almost on a real-time basis. You'll be able to see how many players are there, your DAUs, your ARPU, your RPPU, the geos of where the players are coming from. A very advanced dashboard and reporting. We also accept all payment methods, so Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, even Bitcoins. And depending on the territory, like Brazil, for example, they don't have MasterCard and Visa. So we also support the local payment methods in these countries. And we have what we call Nutaku Publishing. This is the entity that provides the funding, the support when it comes to game design, game production. We know what works on our platform, so let us help you make sure your games are successful. We also do customer care and QA and stress testing to make sure that the game can handle the load of the players coming in. So I've been talking about adultifying your game all along, right? What does that mean? What does it mean to adultify your game? So typically in a regular game, when you're upgrading your character or you're going through the progression, the character has more armor and more weapons. Well, in Nutaku, this character has less and less clothes until she's fully nude. Now, depending on the studio and how comfortable you are, some studios go very soft core. You literally have to play the game for 3-4 hours to see any nudity. And some studios go super explicit. I mean, literally within minutes, not even on the first page, there's like orgies and there's, I'm not going to get into too many details, but you can just imagine. It's a lot of sex. It really depends on what you want to do and how comfortable you are. We don't have any requirements there as long as you have that differentiation between the regular games, right? So the nude part or the sexy part. Another example is Attack on Moi, which is a clicker. This is a clone pretty much of Tap Titans that exist on the app stores. And you'll see here the character again is getting her clothes ripped off more and more until she's fully nude. Note that on our platform, all of our games are with, how do you call that? Like drawn character art. So it's anime, manga, Western anime, Western, like hentai if you want to call it, but it's all, yes, it's all art. So there's no humans at all in any of our games. Now, what is the next step for you guys to qualify for this $10 million investment fund? First thing first, come to Nutaku and play some of our games. You'll see some Japanese games. This is not what we recommend you to test out. Those are more like hardcore. It's not my cup of tea personally. I don't enjoy them. Play some of our Western games. Crystal Maidens is the game that launched yesterday. That's out of the studio in Montreal on St. Catherine. So Crystal Maidens is a very good example. Booty Calls, cool name, huh? Is another example. It's a match 3 game. And then we have Armor Blitz, the trailer that I showed you earlier on. Those are 3 samples. You can play Crush Crush as well, the dating simulator. So first step, play some of our games so you know what we have on our platform. Second, come to us prepared, present your game, how much money and time you need to adultify it. Third step, we review, we either approve or disapprove. If you're approved, we get you the contract, sign it, and you get the money within 2 weeks. It's as simple as this. You don't need to go through hundreds of documentations to get like you're doing with the government. With us, it's a private company. We provide the funds much faster. You can get working pretty much right away, and the game is then launched with the guaranteed featuring that I spoke to you about earlier on, and you start making money. Now, final slide here is just a trailer of some of the games that have been adultified on our platform. There's no nude images here. It's just a straight-on trailer. This is the Attack on Moi clicker that I was telling you about earlier. Armor Blitz out of Michigan. We spoke about that quite a bit. This is the game that failed miserably on the app stores. Let's be honest. It's doing really well now with us. We're very happy from this team. It deserves to be successful. In reality, a game with a quality like this, it's just not fair not to succeed. So that was what was launched a couple of months ago. This one here is a purely Android game out of China called Military Girls, and it's launching in January. So Android only. It's possible. We have a lot of Android players. We've launched some games specifically on Android, and they're making over 100,000. One of them made 185,000 the first month on Android alone. So there's a lot of potential there. Believe it or not, we were able to adultify this game, which you probably heard about it. It's called Road Redemption. It's very successful on Steam. It's gotten a lot of good reviews, and this game is launching next month as well. I'm very curious to see how they were able to adultify this one. And Crush Crush, the clicker. So this is one of those games that you play for hours to get to any nude scenes. It's very soft core. The owners of this game, the producer is the same producer as Adventure Capitalist, a very successful game on the App Store. So he used the same game mechanics, same monetization. This is the game that we started off with. This is how we got into the gaming industry. The tower defense game that I was telling you about earlier. So we finally have decided to adultify this one. Unfortunately, it was not built on Unity, so it's a lot of work taking the code from Cocos 2DX, porting it to Unity, and then launching it. This is the Montreal Studio one. It's a line offense or line defense. This launched yesterday. It's currently making $1,000 an hour. It's at 40K since yesterday, so we're extremely happy. This is a studio that was struggling out of Montreal and that we turned around with our funding. Great game. I enjoyed a lot. And the last game in the trailer is called Kingdoms of Lust. This is more like a hardcore to mid-core game. Not super successful, I would say. More like $70,000 a month. This is what we call a not successful game on our platform. Hardcore because it takes you almost 45 minutes to go through the tutorial. So it's not really for everyone. And that's pretty much it in terms of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. You can come up and yeah, go ahead.
What do I sign?
Sorry?
What do I sign?
Well, again, let's follow the steps, play some of our games, and come and pitch us. We'll be more than happy to hear from you. Are you a studio here out of Montreal?
Yes, I set up a meeting with you tomorrow.
Okay, beautiful. Excited to hear what you have to offer. Do you know which category you're in?
The first one.
New game idea or game in development? Awesome. Oh, sounds good. If you need a mic, there's one coming up right here. And I left my business cards here, so you can email me or contact me if you have any questions or any follow-ups to the presentation. Yes.
Sorry, just one gift. Oh, sure. Hello, test.
Awesome.
What are some of the more, what are the platforms that are most popular on your site? Is it mostly in browser, or is it like, or is Android more popular? Or, yeah.
Good question. So when we first started 2.5 years ago, we did not support Android games right away, or we didn't have any. It was mostly browser, both on PC and mobile. So again, it's HTML5 type of games. Right now, I would say 80% of our revenues are coming from those. Not because it's more successful necessarily, it's just because that's what we have. If you go on Nutaku right now on your phone, and you'll see we have very limited Android games, which is the perfect time to get in. If you have a game, for example, on the App Store, it's very easy to adultify it and put it up on the platform. And then you can create a WebGL version of it and put on PC. So Android, a lot of potential. The game I mentioned earlier on called Booty Calls, that's the one that launched. And in month one, it made 185 purely on Android players. So, but right now, today, 80% of our revenues come from free-to-play. Downloadable games don't represent a lot, again, because the monetization is not as strong. I would say in terms of downloadable games, the successful ones are making 100K every 3 months. So not at all on the same level as browser game. I forgot to mention something earlier. A lot of people ask me, is there any correlation between the amount of nudity that you put in your games to the success? If we add more nudity and more sex in our game, does it mean that we're going to be more successful? It's a hard question because we have some games that are very soft core and still generate a lot of money. And we have some that are very explicit, very hardcore, and they make money. So I could tell you one thing is for sure. Players come to our platform to play the games because they're fun and they're addictive. They're not there to play games for the sex aspect. If they want to see nudity and porn, they go to Pornhub. There's plenty of that completely for free. You don't need to play a game. You just go there. They come to play our games because they're fun. That's the number one criteria. Yes. Hi.
I don't know if you said it explicitly or not, but what made you like target the adult gaming market, like shifting from what you guys started with, like just sort of tower defense games to like this sort of, I guess, underrepresented market, I guess?
Correct. We basically created a brand new opportunity for studios that are struggling with the overcrowded and oversaturated markets. So we said we need to create a niche for something different. If we create another browser game platform, we're basically doing what Congregate is doing. And they've been around for many years. So we said we need to find something different than the others. And we said, well, let's start with the adult flavor. And it worked out very well for us. Let me tell you that. Yeah, I mean, I guess games and sex combined is the perfect combo. That's what we were noticing. Okay. I mean, if I were to play the exact same game, let's say Clash Royale, with adult content or without, I'll pick the one with the adult content.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's again gameplay first, then the adult content comes after. Yes.
So,
Hi.
with the launch of the client next year,
Yes.
are you looking to shift the type of games that you plan on putting on your platforms? Are you looking for more standalone titles as opposed to the free-to-play?
Well, even now we look for downloadable games, right? We were not at all against it. We do have actually a lot more titles that are downloadable PC games. We have over 100 compared to the 24 that we have on free-to-play. It's just that, you know, they generate less money. Free-to-play make more. But with the client, it will make everything much easier. Free-to-play, then, you know, Chrome is, we have some of our games that are Flash-based. So, you know, Chrome is tackling that more and more. It's becoming a lot more restrictive. With the client, we won't have that problem. Downloadable games also, you'll have your own library. You'll feel like you know you have a database of you. It's just like Steam. It's a better user experience. So yes, we're very interested in working with studios that have downloadable games, both now and after the client launch. Yes.
This might be something you're not particularly aware of, but like when you incorporate, you need to inform CRA what type of content you're producing as a corporation. And you know, you can tell them you're making video games. I suspect making adult content may be a different designation. So for something like that, we're dealing with a bank, we're dealing with another kind of financial or governmental or legal institutions. Have you ever found that your clients have issues with that, with transitioning? With
Very good question. I'm assuming you're a Montreal studio as well.
No.
Oh, you're not. Okay, but you still get funding from the government somehow.
I'm not, but
Okay. Look, if you are getting funding from the government, and you mentioned banks, you don't need the banks. We provide the full funding for your, you know, for your team, both in payroll and art creation. So you don't need to go to the bank. As much money as you need, we provide that funding. Now, when it comes to the government, let's say they are the ones funding your mainstream or non-adult game. You create another entity. You give the rights to use the base of that game, and you create an adult version. They have nothing to do with that one. So you can still get the funding from the government, create a non-adult mainstream version of the game, and you create a clone or a white label or a clone of it, basically, with the adult flavor. There's no issues there.
okay. As long as you manage shell corporation, so that effect.
It doesn't have to be a shell. Any corporation in Montreal, there's no issues with what we do is fully legal, obviously.
Well,
Yeah.
I just mean transitioning an existing one, for instance.
Correct. You'll have to create a separate corporation. If you are working with the government and if you have concerns that this might be an issue, then this is one of the ways that you could do that. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I like that. A lot of questions. Beautiful.
I suppose most of the revenue you mentioned, like payment option and stuff. So I suppose most of your revenue comes from IIPs.
Correct.
Do you support as well video ads, like rewarded videos and stuff like that?
We don't. We don't support advertisement because if you think of the advertising market now, the ad networks, obviously it's all big brands. They would not want to be associated with a game that has adult content. So then we're left with the option of advertising adult content, and it's not the same. Again, players come to our website to play games, and we don't want them to be distracted with the kind of ads that you see on Pornhub. So right now, 100% of the revenues that are coming in are either in-game purchases or one-time payment for downloadable games. And no plans, at least not even for the mid-future, to support advertising. Yeah, thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
You mentioned previously that there was one game that was being adultified for a gay audience.
Correct.
Does Nutaku have a gay section? Will you launch a gay section? How does that work?
No, but we get a lot of requests, both female-friendly or gay games. So the game I mentioned earlier on, Booty Calls, which is a dating simulator as well. It's a match 3 mechanic. That one we've approached the developer and we told them let's create an adult version, a game version of it, and a female. So we don't have right now, but we're planning to create a different section for that. So if you do have an idea in the gay field, please come and talk to us. We'd be more than happy to work with you. Yeah. A lot of our players ask for that niche, so there's definitely a market for it. Hi.
Hello. Just regarding some of the developers you mentioned, some of them prefer to go very softcore, some prefer to go hardcore. Is there any specific content within reason, obviously, that you prefer to tell your developers saying, this might be a little too much, or this might be like, oh no, we want you to go a little bit further with it to see how far they actually want to go? Obviously, there's certain content that they like no one should ever touch, but I'm just curious if there was something like enforcing of censorship of any kind.
We basically, obviously, since we use the biggest payment methods out there, Visa, MasterCard, they enforce specific rules on us. And those are the rules that we abide by. So, for example, some of the big sins that are completely no-no for the big banks and big processors are... the big ones are like no incest, no child pornography, no blood at all in any nude scene. So you can have a bloody game, but once it gets to that nude scene, you cannot have any blood with it. You can't have any animals either. That's considered bestiality. Again, only in the actual cut sex scene. Other than that, it's no problem.
So but outside of those specific taboos, anything's free game.
Correct. And it's really the rules that are imposed by the banks. And actually, we're very strict when it comes to that. There's in fact a game that was Steam released it by mistake, and it had some of these. It had what they call that, blackmail. And we had looked at it. The developer approached that first, and we looked at it and we said, well, we can't accept that game that has blackmail. And for some reason, it sneaked through Steam, and now they've banned it. But it got launched on Steam actually without. Even though they're not even an adult gaming platform, and it didn't get launched on us.
All right, thank you.
Those that ask a question, if you have any other questions, no problem. We're not limiting you to one. No other questions? Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending. And if you need any business cards, or you want to talk to us, there's myself, David, and Tom there in the back, business development. We'll be more than happy to talk to you. Thank you again. Thanks.